The scream that tore through the marble halls of the Harrington estate that Tuesday afternoon would haunt Marcus Harrington for the rest of his life. It wasn't just the sound of a child in pain, it was the raw, primal shriek of innocence being destroyed. Marcus had been reviewing quarterly reports in his study when that sound shattered his concentration and sent him running barefoot down the corridor, his heart pounding against his ribs like a prisoner desperate for escape. What he found in the laundry room would challenge everything he thought he knew about the people he'd trusted with his home, his children, and his life. Marcus Harrington wasn't born into wealth. The billionaire tech mogul had clawed his way up from a two-bedroom apartment in Detroit where his single mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. He remembered what it felt like to wear shoes 2 sizes too small because there wasn't money for new ones. He remembered the kindness of strangers who'd helped when his mother couldn't make ends meet. Those memories had shaped him, but somewhere along the way to building his empire, he'd stopped looking closely at the people who made his comfortable life possible. That changed in an instant. 7-year-old Miguel sat on the cold tile floor, cradling his arm against his chest, tears streaming down his face as angry red welts began to rise on his dark skin. Standing over him was Rebecca, the nanny Marcus had hired 6 months ago on the glowing recommendation of another wealthy family in the neighborhood. In her hand, still plugged into the wall outlet, was a steam iron, its indicator light glowing an accusatory red. "What the hell is going on here?" Marcus's voice came out low and dangerous, a tone his business rivals knew meant someone's world was about to change forever. Rebecca's face cycled through expressions so quickly it was almost comical: surprise, fear, and then something that chilled Marcus to his core: calculated manipulation. "Mr. Harrington, thank God you're here. I caught Miguel stealing from your wife's jewelry box. I was just trying to discipline him before." "Stop talking." Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling beside Miguel. The boy flinched away from him, and that small gesture of fear hit Marcus harder than any business loss ever had. "Let me see your arm, buddy. I'm not going to hurt you." Miguel's mother, Rosa, had worked as the Harrington family's housekeeper for 4 years. She was a quiet woman who arrived before dawn and often stayed late, her English still rough around the edges but her work ethic beyond reproach. Marcus realized with shame that he couldn't remember the last time he'd actually had a real conversation with her. Miguel came to the house after school while Rosa finished her duties, usually doing homework quietly in the kitchen. As Miguel slowly extended his arm, Marcus felt rage building in his chest. 3 distinct burn marks marred the child's forearm, the pattern unmistakably matching the iron's metal plate. These weren't accidents. This was deliberate, calculated cruelty inflicted on a child who had no way to defend himself. "Mr. Harrington, you have to understand," Rebecca's voice took on a pleading quality. "These people, they need firm discipline. My last family let their help run wild, and get out." Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Security will escort you from the property. You have 10 minutes to collect your personal belongings. Leave the car keys and house keys on the hall table. If you say one more word before you're off my property, I will have you arrested for child abuse right now." Rebecca's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She must have seen something in Marcus's eyes that convinced her he wasn't bluffing. She set down the iron and fled from the room. Marcus pulled out his phone and called his personal physician. "Dr. Chen, I need you at my house immediately. A child has been burned. No, not an accident. I also need you to document everything for a police report." He then dialed 911, keeping his voice calm for Miguel's sake even though his hands were shaking with fury. Rosa burst through the door moments later, having been summoned by another staff member who'd heard the commotion. The sound she made when she saw her son's injuries was something Marcus knew he'd never forget: a mother's anguish stripped of all pretense and pride. She dropped to her knees beside Miguel, speaking rapid Spanish, her hands hovering over his wounds as if afraid to cause more pain. "Rosa," Marcus said gently, "I've called my doctor and the police. Rebecca has been fired and is leaving the property now. I am so sorry this happened in my home." But Rosa wasn't listening. She was already digging in her pocket for her phone, tears streaming down her face. "I call my cousin," she said in halting English. "Need ride. We go now. I no want trouble for you, Mr. Harrington. We go." The statement hit Marcus like a physical blow. Even now, with her child burned and traumatized, Rosa's first instinct was to remove herself from the situation to avoid inconveniencing her employer. How had he created an environment where she felt this was necessary? Rosa, stop. Marcus sat down on the floor across from them, making himself less imposing. You're not going anywhere except to the hospital to make sure Miguel is properly treated. This is not your fault. This is not Miguel's fault. This is my fault for not paying closer enough attention to who I allowed in my home. Please, let me help make this right. Over the next hours, Marcus did something he realized he should have done years ago. He actually saw the people who worked for him as human beings with full, complex lives. As Dr. Chen treated Miguel's burns and the police took statements, Marcus learned that Rosa was supporting not just Miguel but her elderly mother and a younger sister back in Honduras. She sent home almost everything she earned, leaving barely enough for the tiny apartment she and Miguel shared in a rough neighborhood 40 minutes away. He learned that Miguel was brilliant at math, that he dreamed of becoming an engineer, and that Rosa worked extra hours cleaning offices at night to save for his college education, an event still more than a decade away but already occupying her every waking thought. He learned that she'd noticed Rebecca's coldness toward Miguel but had been too afraid of losing her job to say anything. The weight of that guilt was written all over her face. The police took Rebecca away in handcuffs after finding text messages on her phone to friends casually discussing putting the helps brat in his place. Marcus felt physically sick reading them. But it was what happened next that would define Marcus Harrington's legacy far more than any tech innovation or business deal ever could. Rosa, Marcus said after the police left and Miguel had fallen asleep on the guest room bed, exhausted from trauma and pain medication, I need to tell you something. What happened today showed me that I've been living wrong. I built my company on values I forgot to bring home. I want to make you an offer, and I need you to know there's no pressure. You can say no, and your job is secure regardless. Rosa looked at him with cautious eyes, the wariness of someone who'd learned that the powerful rarely offered anything without strings attached. Marcus took a breath. I want to establish a full-ride scholarship fund for Miguel, private school through high school, then university. Whatever he wants to study. I also want to offer you a position as my family's house manager with triple your current salary and full benefits including health insurance. But more than that, I want to create a program through my foundation to provide educational support and protection for the children of domestic workers across the country. Rosa stared at him in disbelief. Mr. Harrington, I cannot accept charity. It's not charity, Rosa. It's justice. It's what should have been happening all along. I've been so focused on disrupting industries and changing the world through technology that I forgot the world that needed changing was right here in my own home. Marcus went further. He didn't just help Rosa's family, he revolutionized his entire approach to employment. He created an employee assistance program that provided educational stipends for workers' children, mental health support, and pathways to career advancement. He implemented mandatory background checks and psychological evaluations for all household staff, not to discriminate but to protect the vulnerable. He began personally meeting with every person who worked in his homes and offices, learning their names, their stories, their dreams. The story went viral when a business journalist noticed Marcus's foundation filing paperwork for the Miguel Morales Educational Justice Initiative, a $50 million fund to support the children of domestic workers nationwide. In interviews, Marcus didn't paint himself as a hero. He spoke honestly about his failure, about how easy it is to become blind to suffering when it happens in the corners of your peripheral vision. Miguel's burns healed, though the scars remained, a permanent reminder of cruelty but also of the moment everything changed. He did become an engineer, graduating top of his class from MIT on a full scholarship, and later joining Marcus's company where he developed technology to help protect vulnerable workers in private homes through discrete monitoring systems they could activate if threatened. Rosa became more than Marcus's house manager, she became a trusted advisor who helped him understand the real challenges facing working families. Her sister and mother eventually joined her in America, living in a home Marcus helped them purchase. Years later, when Miguel gave the commencement speech at his high school graduation, he told the story of the worst day of his life and how it became the catalyst for change he never imagined possible. A single act of cruelty revealed to one man how broken our system was, Miguel said. But instead of just firing the cruel person and moving on, he asked himself the harder question: how did I create an environment where this was possible? That question, and his willingness to truly change, saved not just me, but thousands of kids like me. The audience stood and applauded, but Marcus, sitting beside Rosa in the crowd, simply bowed his head. Because he knew the truth that Miguel was too kind to say, he should have been asking that question all along. Sometimes it takes witnessing something unthinkable to finally open your eyes to what's been invisible right in front of you. The real measure of character isn't whether you make mistakes, it's what you do after you realize you've been wrong.